Hello and welcome to another segment of the Coatesville Area Public Library's Oral History Project. I'm Kirk Witmer, and with me today we have a native Coatesvillian and a longtime business owner here in Coatesville, Carmen DePedro. Carmen, it's good to have you with us today.
Glad to be here.
Good. Carmen, you were born in what year?
1924.
1924. And where?
On Coat Street. And my family moved from Coat Street to Graham Avenue. They bought a home there back in the 30s.
And where is Graham Avenue?
Graham Avenue is located, if you're going up Black Horse Hill towards the Veterans Hospital, you take a left, and it runs up into Cedar Street and Colfax Street.
Okay. You started school when you were what age?
7 years old.
7 years old.
7 years old. I went to the elementary school there in Coatesville, which is now Benner. It used to be an elementary school and also a high school.
Tell us what a day in school was like back then.
Well, the day in school back then, I was in the first grade, and it so happened that my neighbor had just came over from Italy, and she could not speak a bit of English, and I had to be her interpreter. And so it so happened that she stayed in first grade for about 6 months, and then they transferred her from first grade all the way to fourth grade. And school, we had some lovely, lovely teachers at the elementary school. We had Mrs. White, we had Mr. Arbuckle, we had Miss Reed, and we had Miss Pauline, and our attendance teacher was Miss Hall.
And that was probably most of the staff at that time.
Probably at that time, yes.
4 people. Carmen, your family life then, you naturally came through the Depression as a teen.
Yes.
How did those years impact on your family life?
Well, the Depression didn't bother us too much. My dad worked for the Bethlehem Steel Company pipe mill, and he had a job. But I do remember as a child helping people get their food rationings up on North 3rd Avenue. I would go there, and this young lady or an older woman could not go to different places, so they left me go and get her potatoes and bread. And that was located on North 3rd Avenue, next to the railroad station.
How about social life for kids in those days?
Social life, we used to have a great time. When we would go to the football games here in Coatesville at Scott Field, on Saturday afternoon, they would, after the game, they would march from Scott Field through Coatesville, the band, win or lose, and it was a great, great time. And our places where we would have fun, have soda, ice cream cones would be either Tea Ties or on Chester Avenue, Sandy's Drugstore, or Young's Drugstore in Coatesville.
Now, where's Young's?
Young's is located at 2nd Avenue in Coatesville, which is now the Tux Men's Store. That used to be a little soda shop. And we used to congregate there. And then in the evening, we would go down to Olive Street on the Detour. They called it the Detour, and we would skate. And we would skate from 13th Avenue all the way down to Callan Road.
Past 17th.
17th, past 17th, and down that little hill down into the culvert there.
So roller skating was popular?
Roller skating was popular there. That's where we would do our roller skate in the evening. Now then later on in life, there was a lot of skating rinks. There was one on 4th Avenue and Fleetwood Street that we used to go to. The YWCA had a skating rink also. And the Moose Lodge on Chestnut Street had a skating rink where we would congregate.
Okay. Being on the football team, what position did you play?
I played guard. I was a guard. I was probably a 110-pound guard. Yes, and we had wonderful, wonderful football teams, and we had wonderful coaches.
Carmen, even today, in 1998, there's still a rivalry with Downingtown.
That is correct.
And what was it like back in those days?
It was the same. And we would play Downingtown, that was our rival, and we would also play Phoenixville. Phoenixville was our rival. And I remember we went that one year, in the 40s, we went that one year undefeated till we hit Phoenixville, and Phoenixville beat us.
Uh-oh.
Yes. But we had some wonderful football teams.
Having been around Coatesville so much as you have, I'm sure that you've seen quite a different look come over the city as we move through all of those years. There are a lot of businesses that have come and gone.
Yes.
Tell me about some of the businesses that we once had that are no more.
Well, we had Sears and Roebuck's. We had J.C. Penney's. We had the Mass store. We had Kenny's Shoe Store. We had Boston Shoe Store. We had Laggie's Candy Shop. We had Bennington's.
And these were all in downtown Coatesville?
In downtown Coatesville.
Between First and Third?
That's good. We had the LaBelle Shop. We had Theda Wolf Fitzgerald Shop. We had the St. Regis Restaurant. We had the Famous Restaurant. Some Famous is still there. St. Regis is gone. And most of the ones that I mentioned are going.
Where was the St. Regis?
St. Regis was on 2nd and Main, right on the corner of 2nd and Main. Kenny's Shoe Store was also on 2nd Avenue. Bennington's Pharmacy, and it was a place where you can go in and have sodas and buy drugs, drug paraphernalia. That was on First Avenue next to the Chester Valley Bank. But then there was also, there was Bronstein's Furniture Store. They're no longer there.
They were located where?
They were located on First Avenue also. Now, the only furniture stores we have available now in Coatesville would be Lipkin's and Shertock's. Now, Shertock's used to be on between 3rd and 4th Avenue, and they moved to this new location where they are now on 2nd.
Now, you also owned a business that has moved around a little bit.
Yes.
You've had the Coatesville Flower Shop for quite a number of years, but I understand that flowers have been a very early part of your background. You were working as a young fellow for another florist. Tell us about your experiences
I used to
there.
work for, I started when I worked for Hurley's Greenhouses. They were located on Black Horse Hill. They had 5 greenhouses. And I worked for them since I was just a youngster. And I used to also sell my flowers on the corner of 5th Avenue and Main. That used to be the old farmers market. The farmers used to come in from out of town, and they would bring their wares, chickens, live chickens, baked goods, and what have you. And I would sell my flowers on the corner there on 5th Avenue.
I think we should mention that's the same corner that the public library stands on now.
That is correct, yes. And there also used to be a tea house there years ago.
Miss Worth
Miss
Tea
Worth
House.
Tea.
Tell
Miss
me what you
Worth-
remember of her
Miss
tea
Worth
house.
Tea House. Now, Miss Worth's mother owned that, and Miss Worth was a teacher here
Yes, I know.
at Scott.
I understand that was quite the place to go if you were a sociable young lady.
That's correct.
Is that how
That
you
is
recall
correct.
it?
I recall it that way, yes, yes.
But a little more about the market.
The market would be on a Saturday, and they would come in with their horse and wagons and their older cars, and they would set up just a regular table. And that would run from Main Street in Coatesville all the way to Chestnut Street. And there also used to be another market there where the Corn Brothers used to be, Corn Brothers clothing store underneath. And there used to be a market there, and also on Fleetwood Street between 3rd and 4th Avenue, across from the railroad station.
It must have been a very thriving business community then at that
It
time.
was.
We've-
Every store in Coatesville was filled. We had clothing stores, we had shoe stores, we had flower shops, we had jewelry stores. And today, there's just very, very few stores.
You eventually opened your own flower shop, but it's not the location where it is now.
No, I bought my flower shop back in the 40s from Mr. Muir, and he was located next to the Washies Fire Company. And I had lost my lease, and I had a place, I was there for 20 years, and I had to go somewhere, so the building that I am in now, the old Mosteller building, is where I moved my shop, and I've been there ever since. And my wife and I purchased the property. And my son came into business with me about 20 years ago, my oldest son.
I think we should mention that before that was a Mosteller's clothing store.
That's correct, it was Mosteller.
Prior to that, it was the
People's,
Mhm.
People's Drugstore.
Mhm.
And prior to that, it was the YWCA.
Yes. So, and we have a photograph, of course,
Yes.
of that YWCA.
Right,
So that particular corner has had quite a history in and of itself.
correct. Western Union used to be there, and barber shops were there on 3rd Avenue. Used to be a hat shop, used to be a shoemaker shop. And I guess that's about the extent of it.
And now you've had a business there for 30 years.
Close to 30 years, yeah. My wife and I have been in business now for 50 years, and we just celebrated it, 50 years.
Yes.
And also our marriage.
Yes. So the two have gone pretty much hand in hand.
Correct.
And I'm sure you've seen some exciting times over the years.
Yes. We had a fire at our old place that put us, well, really didn't put us out of business. It just slowed it up. And at the time that we had the fire, I was in the hospital, and my wife had to take over.
Mm.
I went in for, I guess, an ulcer operation. I guess the business was getting to me.
Now, the fire that you just mentioned, that included the hotel that you owned?
No,
No, that's a separate fire.
That was a separate fire. That was there at the Brenniger Building, where the Brenniger Building is at the present time, next to the Washies Fire Company. But we did have a fire. Mr. Deininger and I owned the Hotel Coatesville, and we had a fire there, and it destroyed the whole.
Where was that located?
That was located between 2nd and 3rd Avenue on the south side, next to the new IBB Bank. And that's where the Hotel Coatesville was.
So I hope with one fire in the flower shop and another fire in a hotel that you've got your fire insurance paid up on
Yes.
your current shop.
Right. I must mention, years ago, the Hotel Grand in Coatesville, it was above Newberry's. That was a gathering place for a lot of people. It was a beautiful, beautiful hotel. You would sit on the porch and have your lunch. And I can still remember the red interior, the red tablecloths, and the candles. And it would run for almost the whole length of Newberry's. And a lot of people would go there after the charity ball. They used to have a charity ball in Coatesville. And after the charity ball, they would go and socialize at the Hotel Coatesville. I mean, at the Grand Hotel. I think I have a picture of that also up in the shop of the Grand Hotel. In that picture that we were talking about.
Yes. Carmen, from your original shop location, across the street, there has been a major change in architecture. There was once a movie theater and the Coach and Four,
That's correct.
and they are no more.
Correct.
What were your impressions at the time when that transition was being made?
Well, I was sorry to see it go.
I think we all were.
Coach and Four was a beautiful, beautiful place. They had a canopy out front, and you'd walk in there, and they had all these beautiful pictures. The Y used to be a lovely place for youngsters to go. They used to have pool tables, they had a bowling alley, they had a cafeteria, they had a swimming pool, they had a track, stand upstairs. And at Christmas time, they would invite all the kids from the area to go to a Christmas party at the auditorium, and they would show movies, and after the movies, they would hand out a box of candy, and a box of candy meant an awful lot to us kids in those days.
Yes.
And we had a great time at the Y. As a matter of fact, I worked at the Y setting up pins. They had 12 alleys there.
Yeah, I remember.
Remember? Yeah,
I
yes.
do. I do. And of course, the auditorium movie theater, I think, was almost an institution in Coatesville in and
It
of
was.
itself.
It was. And we also have a picture of that also of the auditorium.
Yes.
We do.
Carmen, Kurt's Dam has been an area near Coatesville that has seen a major change over the years, too. Tell me about your memories of going out to Kurt's Dam as a boy.
Well, as a boy, I lived on Graham Avenue, and we used to take a shortcut over the hill to go to Kurtz's Dam. Kurtz's Dam had many, many boathouses, and we used to do our fishing there. And I used to fish right at the falls, and we would catch these sunfishes. We didn't have the money at the time to buy a fishing hook. We used to use safety pins to fish. And they used to be a place where they would go canoeing, they would go swimming, and it was beautiful, really beautiful till they let it go, and it all filled up. Now you have Route 82 that goes by it. And there used to be a railroad across from the dam, and there used to also be Brandywine Park in that area, where people would go there on a Sunday and have their picnics. And then there also was Pratt's Dam, where they used to have their picnics and also go swimming. This is, in those days, we had to go either at Kurtz's Dam or Pratt's Dam, or go down to Brandywine to go swimming. They never had pools in those days, around here, at least.
When did Ash Park come into being?
I don't remember, but I do remember going to Ash Park quite a bit. Used to have some wonderful baseball games. They had many, many teams, and the stands used to be full with baseball players and their families. And the games would always start in the evening at say 5:30 or 6 o'clock. Matter of fact, a lot of the fellows that played there, I still know, and they're still around. My brother used to play there for one of the teams, like the LGM, and they also had the West End team, and they had the Brandywine Fire Company team, and then they also had the don't remember the name of the team, but they were from around the Pomeroy area.
Carmen, I have to ask you, I know you're a circus fan as well, and circuses used to come to Coatesville. Give us your impressions of those days.
Well, we just couldn't wait. We knew that the circus was coming to town. And in those days, the circus came
And
by
those
train.
days would be,
Back in the 30s and 40s,
Yes.
they used to come by train. And they would go to Fifth Avenue and Elm Street. And that's where they would unload. And they would take their trucks and their animals, and they would march them through Coatesville, and they would set up tent over on Corey Field, which is in the west end of town. That is next to Lucan Steel Company. That was a great, great day then. Everybody was out to see the circus because they were coming to town. And before the performances in the afternoon, they used to march through Coatesville with their wagons and their clowns and what have you, just to know that they were in town. But that was a big, big day in Coatesville when the circus came to town.
I'm sure it was. You also mentioned trains and the circus arriving by trains.
Yes.
Train travel back then was a little more extensive than it is now also. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct, right.
The-
Well, talking about trains, I can remember as a kid during the Depression that these coal trucks, trains with coal on them used to come through Coatesville. And the poor people that didn't have money to buy coal, they would hop onto these cars and throw the coal off and go back and pick them up and take it home with them.
Oh, my.
And this, they were bad, bad times at that time. And the weather was bad in those days. That is today. We're lucky today. We have beautiful, beautiful weather compared to all the cold weather we had in those days.
That's an interesting comment. We've done a lot of interviews as part of this project, and no one has ever really brought out the difference in weather.
Oh, the weather was
between then and
bad.
now.
When we played football, we had to actually wear gloves, and the ground was so frozen that it was just so cold. Ice and snow. But it was fun.
I'm sure it was.
Yes.
Carmen, I have to take a moment here to say thank you for being a part of our project. You've brought some things to light here that no one else could have, and we're very appreciative for you participating.
Well, I'm glad to be here, and thank you ever so much for asking me.
Thank you again.